School is finished for another year. For the past 10 to 12 years, these students have been preparing to take their place as contributing citizens to our society. Some will go on to learn further skills at university, but most will be looking for a job. Some will find a job and enjoy it. Others will hate it. A fairly large percentage won't get a job at all. Of those that do get a job, some will be well rewarded, others will be exploited. This film is about young people and how they protect themselves in the workforce. Mostly, therefore, the film is about trade unions and how young people view trade unions. So let's first look at a broad definition of what is a trade union.
A trade union is generally a large, complex group of people who have different needs, but who meet together for the purpose of working in the common interest without necessarily meeting everybody's individual needs, with the general view to improving the overall well-being of the individual worker and their family.
The union is sort of a go-between man and the management, really. That's the way I see it. If you've got any small problems, it's easier to go and see your union rep, and he'll sort things out for you. It doesn't matter what it is, really, whether it's your toilet's crook or you want some more money. He's really a go-between, I've found.
Bernie is an apprentice diesel fitter. He's been a union member for a couple of years now.
I had a workers' compensation claim and no more money had come through, they jacked up on the money, so I went and saw my union rep, and after quite a deal of hassling and mucking around, he finally got the money for me. Without him, I'd have never got the money.
There is someone who would speak for him or her, that there is someone who understands what is a complex system. There's someone who's reasonably skilled to represent their interest as an individual and as part of the group they work with.
Does that mean that it's still a them and us fight against the employer?
Well, it's not so much a fight, but there are two different interests, and it's the way in which those interests are resolved or the compromise to meet the interests of both. But there are two quite distinct interests.
Hello, June. It's Jean here. I've just started a new business selling cosmetics, and I was wondering if you would like a free facial tomorrow morning sometime.
Jean doesn't have much time for unions. She believes that if you're prepared to work and not be lazy, that's all you need in the workforce. Jean sells cosmetics on commission. The more she sells, the more she makes. If she doesn't sell, she doesn't earn. How does she see trade unions?
Someone who sticks up for your rights by striking, going on deadlocks and that sort of thing. I don't feel I need to be part of one, because I'm my own manager, and if I'm prepared to work, I don't need one.
Jean has no guaranteed income, no sickness benefits, no holiday pay. So how is she protected? We'll come back to her shortly. Let's look at Rocky. He has a guaranteed income. It's called the dole, unemployment benefit.
Trade union is just, to me, it's just a group of people that's got together to be united rather than you know, different people. I mean, they're united we stand, divided we fall.
We now have three different viewpoints of unions, and surprisingly, even though unionism touches everyone in the workforce at some time or other, we have very little knowledge of what it's all about. Why is that? Des Hanlon of the Trade Union Training Authority.
The difficulty the education system has in equipping children with knowledge about unions is that to most children, the question is not relevant. When moving from a pocket money economy to their first job, the wages look adequate. Their needs are relatively simple. They seem to achieve most of them. It's once they reach an age when they discover their income is likely to be reasonably static, they're unlikely to achieve any more. Their responsibilities increase with family, homes, cars. That's when they start to take an interest in their level of income and their security. And that tends not to come till into the 20s and early 30s, when they start to feel the pressure, and their work experience has taught them of the necessity either to join or to seek out the union to protect their interests.
When I was at school, I mean, when you're at school, you don't really sort of think about trade unions, you know. As far as you're concerned, you want to get out of school and just sort of, you know, oh, I'm free kind of attitude. So So sort of, you know, as far as sort of, so really I never even thought, you know, that there was a trade union before I left school. It just sort of, you just don't think about it.
Brothers, this meeting's been called today to introduce Bob Ridley, who's going to give us a bit of a rundown on the progress so far of the 35-hour week campaign.
Good, thanks a lot, Ben. Well, as you're probably aware, we've had discussions with officials of the department on the introduction of the restructured hours of the 35-hour week to be operated in the DMR.
I sort of knew the side that the union was the man that held up production, and he was a boogie, and he was the sort of fellow that, you know, everyone seemed to be down on. In the area that I came from, they weren't very happy with the unions. But when I came to work here, I got a better understanding and began to appreciate the unions when I became a member, and a few things happened. But you learn to appreciate that management is very, very stubborn. They're very stubborn, and just a trivial thing, sometimes you've got to go out or drastic measures have to be made. And a lot of people don't realise what goes behind these sort of things. There's a lot more things that go on. The media seem to twist things a little bit.
I did commercial knowledge, and we did a lot about unions and trade unions and that sort of thing. It just never interested me, because I feel if someone or a place goes on strike, it's not affecting them personally. It's affecting the public, who they're working for, really, and it's putting us out instead of them. I don't believe in strikes and that sort of thing. Well, there's the directors of the business to help me and encourage me and teach me different techniques if I need them. So, if I'm ever in trouble, I've always got someone to turn to and ask for help, because that's what they're there for, really, to help the people who are just getting started, or people with problems, as well as running their business. I mean, if you really want to do something, you can do it without the support of a union.
In a society as large as we live in, as complex, they require rules. It requires we drive on one side of the road, we have public water supply, public electricity, a range of things. And this flows on into building regulations at the same time as the employment of labour. And under what terms? So that both sides get a reasonable return for their contribution.
Well, it depends on how hard you work. If you're prepared to work hard, you'll earn your wage. If you're going to be lazy and just depend on other people, you don't earn your wage.
After being in the Unemployed Workers Union for so long, without a union, you know, you're by yourself, and therefore with a trade union you've got sort of the unity that you need to sort of, you've got more chance of surviving.
Personally, I think I live fairly well. But if it hadn't been for a union to really set that standard, I'd never been able to do the things I could now. Just small things like probably apprenticeships allowances and things like this, you know, small things like that make things a lot easier. That has resulted from the union setting a set wage and pushing through apprenticeship commissions and through the workers. I've been able to make trips. You know, I usually go away every year somewhere, been able to get things that I've wanted. I mean, a lot of things are material things, but without those things you couldn't do a lot of things. You could buy a car or go away. It's just they've set a standard.
We now live in an affluent society. We've achieved many goals and rid ourselves of the harsh attitudes of last century. So do we still need the protection of trade unions?
A worker obtains his status, his income, and security from work. Workers still find their employment threatened. They still find their income inadequate, and the status of having a job, having something to which they can feel attached and contributing, is under threat. The introduction of more mechanisation, automation, electronics, all make a worker feel less and less essential to the process.
Ultimately, If a union doesn't look after workers, who does?
No, I don't think there is there is anybody else, really. I mean, except for yourself. That's not really much protection in a situation like that. You can protect yourself to a certain degree, but with a trade union, I mean, at least if you're not properly looked after or unjustly treated, you know, you can fight against it with a trade union. Without one, well, you can't. I mean, you try and fight against it, you're out of a job. Simple as that.
They'd have to work for themselves. If there was enough people prepared to work for themselves, they wouldn't need a union.
No one would, unless you're game enough to stand up, and one man on his own isn't very strong against a big company. It's a case of having to have someone there, as I said earlier, as the go-between, and all the boys sort of get in a group together. They called it the union, I suppose. You'd be no good on your own, no way.